Bold opinions, real evidence, lasting impact. This is Rod's Scholarly Opinion. I'm your host, Rodney McNeil, and here we dive into the real issues shaping our world through a lens that's just not opinionated, but grounded in credible evidence and critical thought. Today's episode focuses on the district opportunity gap with a closer look at Fort Worth Independent School District. But before we get into it, let's define what the opportunity gap really means. According to the Glossary of Education Reform, the opportunity gap refers to the unequal distribution of resources and support, such as education, healthcare, and technology, often influenced by race, socioeconomic status, and zip code. In FWISD, this gap is deeply embedded in the system, disproportionately affecting Black students' performance in reading, math, and beyond. In this episode, I will break down the key barriers driving these inequities, including poverty, racial disparities, institutional practices, and policy decisions, and explore what's at stake if meaningful change doesn't happen. Now, before we go any further, we need to clarify an important distinction: equity versus equality. Equality in this sense is everyone having the same value, rights, treatments, and opportunities. While it's not wrong, equality ignores what equity emphasizes: fairness and justice, while providing customized treatment to ensure equal outcomes based on individual needs. Every student will not have the same needs, but they are moving toward the same outcomes. FWISD lost its way in forgetting the unique cultural characteristics their students possess. And this issue becomes even more complicated when policy enters the picture, especially with Texas Senate Bill 3. It censors teacher instruction about race, gender, and systemic oppression. This hurts Black, Latino, and immigrant students in compromising history, figures, and events. The mentioned student demographics lose information that relates to their existence. So, how do we get to this point? The reality is, this didn't happen overnight. So, a combination of factors contributed to Fort Worth ISD's decline, including COVID-19 pandemic. As we all know, this disruption forced students to learn from home. The problem with learning from home was that it presented a less than ideal learning environment, which we cannot assume that some students did not lack resources like internet, a laptop, or a computer. For that reason, many students did not attend class at teachers, excuse me, as teachers struggled to adapt and construct a curriculum that translate for online students. A year and a half of learning loss affected students negatively. And when we look at the data, the gap becomes even more clear and more concerning. Another factor was the over-reliance on the STAR test, which narrowed learning and taking the focus off foundational skills for short-term topics. As a result, the achievement gap widened and students fell below grade level standards in reading and math. Now, out of 68,000 students district-wide, 25,000 of them are not proficient in reading or math. Multiple schools have consistent D and F ratings on the state's STAR tests. Unfortunately, Black students score lower than other demographics. According to Texas Education Agency data collected in 2023, we will examine third graders. So 21% of Black third graders met level proficiency, while 30% Hispanic, 46% Asian, and 62% of white students met grade level proficiency. So now the question becomes, what is being done to fix this? Two alternatives based on underperforming students could take effect if FWISD does not get their students to score better. One, a new instructional turnaround plan called the Elevate School Network, which actually launched this month, We'll focus on 19 of Fort Worth ISD's underperforming schools. The initiative is to pay higher teacher salaries of $100,000, a longer school year, and specialized teacher and student support. The teacher shakeup at 7 of the 19 schools who qualified for the turnaround plan, including schools like Wedgwood Middle and Morningside, will call for teachers to reapply for their positions, as well as the principals. This will affect teachers teaching core subjects, math and reading. Also, teachers must have 2 years of experience and a proven successful track record of student performance on the STAR tests. The point is to attract the most effective talent and place them in a position to help improve student learning. The second alternative is the state takeover of FWISD. In this takeover, the superintendent will be replaced by new leadership as well as the school board by the board of managers. The state's intervention will be a 2-year tenure, with policies and budgets being placed under the authority of the new state-appointed officials. The commissioner has the power to delegate how long the state's intervention will last and when FWISD will be ready for local control again. Teachers, on the other hand, will have a more scripted approach to teaching, which could take away needed time for struggling students. Now, here's my perspective on all of this. FWISD must do what is best for their students. The policies and funding must support student equity, not just equality. Students should not lack resources when they come to school or support in any way. The teaching practices must be student-centered. It's okay to get help from other districts who once struggled but turned around their student performance successfully. Using data to identify trends, problems, and solutions are helpful too. However, data and metrics cannot fill in the gaps that plague students who underperform. Teachers must foster a trusting relationship with their students. Students in some way must relate to the curriculum. There should be a diversity of books explored where each student can identify with someone in the books they read. Maybe teachers should have an assistant or work with another teacher to divide students into groups of mastery and also those who need improvement. Students need support, and so do the educators who train them. Leadership must create a system of support for their educators and student body. Money could motivate teachers to perform more effectively, but supporting their well-being, in addition, ignites intrinsic passion. The opportunity gap must be approached with equity. That is, addressing the unique needs of underperforming students to ensure they meet the same outcomes. The opportunity gap is not just an education issue, it's a reflection of priorities, systems, and who we choose to invest in. And if those systems don't change, the outcomes won't either. This has been Rod's Scholarly Opinion, where we challenge perspectives, demand evidence, and speak on what truly matters. I am Rodney McNeil. Stay informed, stay critical, and I will catch you in the next one.